Hello. Oh, that was nice. That's better than I usually get, especially at, 4 o'clock? So I am so excited to be here at the Lead Developer, which I refer to privately as the conference where everyone that I like and respect speaks. So I'm really, really honored and delighted to be here this year. And this conference is extra special for me because my sister, who I actually only see about once or twice a year, is here in the audience. So thanks for being here. And thank you all for being here. It sounds like I've been following on Twitter as I sorted out the luggage incident, and it looks like it's been a wonderful day so far, and I'm really excited to watch the rest of the talks. So I'm also really excited to share with you. This is me. I'm Erika. You can find me at Erika Carlson everywhere on the internet that matters. I'm a software developer. My background was web development. I did backend Java, which I adored, and then I did iOS development. And I work at a wonderful little company called Detroit Labs in Detroit, Michigan. We are a mobile software consultancy of about 100 people. And my job there is to train and coach software developers. I came on 4 years ago as an iOS developer. And a little while later, we were having a very hard time hiring mobile developers to build the great things we wanted to build. And the reason for that, if you are not familiar with Detroit, Michigan, is that mobile developers can get paid a lot of money to go work somewhere that it is not winter 9 months out of the year. So we were struggling. And we thought, teaching and learning is a huge part of our culture. What if we could take people who have the grit and the curiosity and persistence and determination and love for learning and all these other things that we always look for in people that we hire, and they just aren't developers yet, and we can train them over the course of, let's say, 3 months. So that is our apprenticeship program now. We have graduated 60 people from it, and we employ still 84% of our graduates. Most of the rest of them are also still in the industry. We're very proud of that. We've trained iOS developers, Android, JavaScript, and actually recently a QA class as well. And my job is to run that program. It is my favorite thing in the entire world. I get paid to do my job. I don't get paid to talk about how much I love my job, but I do every time because it's really wonderful. It has also taught me a lot about feedback because as a coach, you have to give feedback and you have to receive feedback and you have to teach other people to get really good at doing both of those things. So in my talk, we're going to establish a really quick shared definition of feedback. We're going to talk about why I think it's important to teams. If we can agree that it's important, we'll talk about why teams struggle with giving and receiving feedback. The meat of this talk is how we get better, how we do feedback better. And the last piece is how do I know? This is a talk about what I've learned. I bring a very weird variety of experience to the table. I have a background in psychology. I am not a psychologist. Before I got into tech, I worked in mediation helping people get divorced, which was even less fun than it sounds. I have about a decade of experience as an orchestral and a chamber musician, which is a whole different form of feedback. I've run a nonprofit organization, and then I have all that professional training in communication and mediation. I currently work in a flat organization, so either we feedback or we don't get anything done. And my whole job now is to coach and to mentor individuals and teams, and a big piece of that is teaching people how to give and receive feedback. So I have learned about feedback from all of those contexts, and this is a talk about that. I'm going to suggest that you do what I encourage you to do with feedback with this talk, which is take what you find useful and leave the rest. So, really quick, my shared definition of feedback for this talk is this: a response to a person's behavior and/or performance that we share with that person for the purpose of increasing their awareness, broadening their field of vision, and shaping their behavior. That first piece is really important because the way that we move forward in our careers and the opportunities we get and the way people respond to us is not based on what we say to them, it's based on what they hear. And feedback helps us understand how people perceive us. I'm going to go over a couple of types of feedback that I'm going to refer to in this talk. Affirmative feedback, also known as positive feedback, and I will probably say both things, is where we say, yes, good, that was great, do more of that. We reinforce behavior. We want that thing to keep happening in the future. Constructive feedback, which is what I say instead of negative feedback, because the word negative tends to panic people and they stop hearing things, is where we say, hey, don't do that thing, or do that thing a little bit differently. And this last piece is important too, because if you're not saying yes, more of that, or no, less of that, you're still saying something. Silence and inaction are forms of feedback. If you don't positively reinforce a behavior, you're saying, this is not that important to me. And if you let bad behavior go, you're saying, it's not really so bad if you do this. So no matter what you do, you are giving feedback. If you focus on the first two types, you will minimize undesirable passive feedback. I teach software developers, which means I start with people from day one and we learn about things like what is a for loop. And they learn what is a for loop and they're very proud and I'm very proud of them. And then somebody inevitably raises their hand and says, okay, now what? Why? Why do I care? Why is this important? So now all of my lectures have slides that say, why does this matter? And this is why I think this matters. I believe and have seen from my experience that feedback done effectively is one of the best tools we have for improving individual and team performance. I believe that it makes better teams. It makes us trust each other more. It helps us build better things faster. It helps us solve problems early before they become toxic. I was asked to come in and coach a team of 20-some people, and they were all struggling to even talk to each other because the team had so many issues that were ingrained, and everybody was mad at everybody, and everybody was all mad at this one particular person also, and it was a whole thing, and they couldn't communicate, let alone get anything done. And we spent a whole day working out these issues, and as people were talking, I kept thinking to myself, if this had been addressed the first time it came up, or the second time, or possibly even the 17th time, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be in this situation. There's mosquito problems, and mosquito problems are, I have my headphones on, and you come over, and you tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, Erika, I need this thing from you right now. And I turn to you with only this little bit of rage in my eyes and go, okay. And I'm a little bit annoyed, but it's not a huge deal. Now, if you do that 14 times in one day, the mosquito has turned into a monster. But if at any point in the 1, 2, maybe 3 times that you do this, I say, hey, when I have my headphones on, I'm trying to focus. I'm trying to get something done, and it's hard for me to go back to that once I've been interrupted. Can you maybe Slack me or something else if you need something from me and we can figure out a way to communicate better? The mosquito never turns into a monster, and the monster never eats me or the other developer. So why is it hard? This is a really easy answer. Feedback is hard for teams because feedback is hard for people. My favorite thing to do, and I would do it today if I had more time, is to go into a room full of people, usually it's software developers because that's my job, and say, what's the first word that comes to mind when you hear the word feedback? And then I write them all down on a whiteboard, and it is illuminating. I hear stress, I hear anxiety, I hear fear, sometimes I hear a good thing or two, help or improvement. Usually I see some version of the word horrified. Somebody hears, I'm gonna get feedback, and they just shut down, and they go, oh God, oh God, oh God. And then usually the next step is for me to say, tell me about some of your experiences receiving and giving feedback in the workplace. I might hear 1 or 2 good ones, and then I hear a lot of really unfortunate ones. And I don't believe this is because any of the people involved in those bad stories were bad people, or were jerks, or anything like that. But I believe that giving and receiving feedback are both skills, and they are both difficult skills, and they are often not recognized as skills. And so we don't get to practice them, and so we don't get good at them, and they become scary. I also believe that feedback is hard because take a look at all the words up there. Openness, maturity, self-awareness, courage, vulnerability, confidence, and trust. Not a big deal, right? I don't know about you, but those are things that are challenging for me in the relationships with the people that I love the most, let alone with my coworkers, incidentally, who are also some people that I love the most. But this stuff is hard in our lives. It's certainly hard in the workplace. The word fearless is in my title. It's a little bit unfair because I don't think we're ever really fearless. 2 years ago, I had enormous fears of public speaking and getting on airplanes. I mentioned I'm from Detroit. Okay. And I did 2 things about that. I applied to a bunch of conferences, and I started practicing very, very, very short, 45-minute to Chicago flights, and then I would fly back. That was how I started to. But I practiced. And what I got from that was amazing. What I got from that was an opportunity to travel. I have met incredible people. I have developed a skill that I never, ever, ever in a million years thought that I would. I have gotten to share things that I've learned, but I've learned far more from the people that I've spoken to than probably they have from me. It's been an amazing ride of 2 years. And it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't looked at those fears and decided to treat them like opportunities. I had this project manager once, and she would never say, "We have a problem." She'd come in, and she'd go, "All right, team, we have an opportunity." Yeah, right, I hated it. Just say it, right? Like, the client wanted this, and they wanted it 3 days ago, and it's not gonna happen because they don't even have a test, whatever. But she would say that, and more than saying it, she persistently viewed situations that way. And over time, it did change the team. It was really cool. So, I think that fears are our best clue as to how we can be amazing. If you look at the things that you're afraid of, they represent these really cool places in your life that you could learn something, or really, really grow, or really change in a very positive way. They're the best clues you're gonna get. For a very long time, I said, I'm just scared of public speaking, and I'm never gonna be good at it, and I'm just scared of flying, and so sorry, sister in Finland, I love you very much, but I will only see you when you come to America. Because that's just who I am. That is crap. Fears are not who we are. They are real, and they are very scary, but they are not irrevocable. They aren't something that we can't change, something that we can't work with and engage and address. So, I built this little inventory for myself, and I'm sharing it with you. When you feel anxiety around feedback, this is where the fearlessness starts, by asking yourself some questions. What am I really scared of? When my boss says, "Hey, Erika, I want to meet with you next week on Tuesday. I've got some things to talk to you about," I'm instantly scared of, I'm going to get fired. Just always. That's just number one. And then I push a little beyond that, and I get to, I'm afraid that I haven't done enough things, or that I haven't done the right things, or that despite my best of intentions, I have been blind somewhere and I have failed. Those are the things I'm really scared of. And then I say, okay, what could I do to get past that? For starters, I said to my boss, I really hate it when you send vague meeting requests. Please tell me what they're about. But what can I do to get past those fears? What's under those fears? And then what could I get by moving beyond that? What could I gain if I didn't instantly question the value of the work I do every time somebody says, I have some feedback for you? A lot, right? So, if you fall asleep after this slide, you're still going to walk out of here with some good stuff. So, I did this for you. Good feedback is specific. If it's effective, it's specific, because you saying to somebody, you did a good job, is great, but not helpful. And you saying, well, that could have been better, is also, something, but not that helpful. Good feedback is thoughtful. If you are thoughtful and kind in your delivery, and I talk more about this later, you will get much, much, much further than if you are not. And good feedback is direct. This is the hardest one for me. I am somebody who has always thought of myself as nice, and I am trying to stop thinking of myself as nice and start thinking of myself as kind, because when you are kind, you say the things that need to be said, even if it's hard for you. But if you're nice, you just never make anybody feel mad or uncomfortable, and that's actually not a productive way to go through life for me. So, good feedback is direct. Good feedback is structured. I did not invent this. This is research-based. Situation behavior impact means that when I give feedback, I structure it like this. I say, in this scenario, you did this thing, and this was the outcome. And I've got some examples up there. So that's 101. And now I've got 10 strategies for you, and I've got 16 minutes, and I've never gotten through these in 16, so here we go, everybody. All right. Number one, listen actively. In professional communication, this is the first thing they teach you, is active listening. This is the most important, because how you listen is far more important than anything you say. When you receive feedback, listen intentionally. Remember that listening is a lot about your body and a lot about the little nonverbal things that you do, and maybe a little bit about some verbal responses like, okay, and nod your head. This is very hard, and we all do it. We all listen to respond. Think about the last conversation you were in where somebody was saying something to you and you were nodding your head and totally acting like you were listening, but in your head you were just like, yeah, come on, I got the thing. I know what I'm going to say next. Let's go. And you probably didn't even hear the last 3 things they said. So listening actively means really just listening to hear. This is a really helpful piece of active listening, and it's confirming understanding. You listen to everything someone has to say, and then you say, what I'm hearing you say is, when I disagreed with you in the meeting, you felt disrespected and you felt hurt. And they say, yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Or they say, no, that's not what I was trying to say. Let me try again. And they try again, and then you confirm again. This is a magical tactic. It often brings down the intensity of a conversation just because somebody, when they feel heard, their body goes, okay, you get it. It's also great for relationships. I think it took about 2 months before my now fiance caught on to me going, well, what I'm hearing you say is, now he does it back. Step 2, say thank you. This seems really intuitive. If somebody says a great thing to you, like, hey, I loved your talk. Boy, like, that pull request was beautifully structured. Or, you really nailed that explanation. Or, boy, you really coached me really well today. All you do is say thank you, right? No, we don't. We don't do that. What we do is go, oh my God, actually the talk was really terrible, and my shirt matched my slides, and that was really bad, and then I said this one weird catchphrase over and over again that I just invented. And if you come up to me after this talk and you say that you liked it, I will try really hard not to do that, but I might anyway. So, think about what happens when somebody says something really genuine and positive to you. What do? Do you get embarrassed? Do you shrug off the feedback? Do you push back and explain why you're not really that great after all? That's me. Do you refuse to take credit? Do you minimize your accomplishments? Do you change the subject? A lot of us do a lot of those things. So, I challenge you that when someone gives you positive feedback, look them in the eye, smile, and say, thank you. You can all test me on this later. All right? So that's hard. Second one is way harder. You can also test me on this one. Accepting constructive feedback without doing any of those things, without defending yourself, without disengaging, shutting down, without fighting back. This is so hard because even if somebody comes to us with the kindest, most loving of intentions and they say something about how what we did was not that great, it hurts. And we have feelings about it because we are people and people have feelings. And that's normal and that's totally okay. But you do not want to respond from those emotions. So, you confirm understanding. What I'm hearing you say is when I did this, it had this hurtful impact on you. And if they say yes, you move on and you say, thank you for the feedback. If you want to make sure that they don't feel like you're dismissing them, you can say, I really appreciate that you took the time to share this with me, and I'd like to take some time to think about it. And maybe, if necessary, could we meet in a few days to follow up? But that's it. You don't push back, don't argue, don't explain why you did the thing that you did. Just say thank you. Imagine you've just had a performance review with your manager and it did not go the way that you hoped. So your job's not in danger, you're not gonna get fired, but your manager said, here are some things that I need you to get better at before you're eligible for that raise or that promotion or whatever the next thing that you want is. And you manage to smile and say, okay, thank you for the feedback, I understand, da-da-da-da-da-da, and you walk out of there, and on the way back to your desk, you go, she didn't get it. She didn't see that thing I did. And that thing was totally that other person's fault. That wasn't me. I was not set up to succeed here. And God, I think she's probably having a bad day. Actually, you know what? I think she just maybe doesn't like me. She might be jealous of me. I think she never wanted to hire me in the first place. And that's just by the time you're back to your desk. You see why we respond later. Go home. Cry about it if you have to. Sometimes I have to. Let yourself feel the emotions that are brought up by whatever the feedback is that you got. Because emotions do this really cool thing. They come, and then they go. Feelings want to be felt. They don't usually want to stick around. And then check back in with yourself. Maybe 12 hours later, maybe a day or two later. It doesn't usually take much longer than that. And say, okay, now how do I feel about that feedback? And if it's still, nope, I'm still really mad about that, then okay, more time. And then a couple more days, check back in, and you say, I think there was some value there, because usually when something hits us hard, there is a reason why. So, At that point, once you've sat with the feedback, process and think to yourself, okay, what do I want to address, if anything? Do I need to change my behavior? How? I give this suggestion in the context of receiving feedback, and you'll notice that I start, all of my first things are about receiving feedback, but I believe this is valuable in the context of giving feedback too. Sometimes it's good to wait and process the feelings and get some perspective before you give the feedback. Other times, behavior that is not okay needs to be addressed right away. This might be the hardest slide on here. This is a thing I struggle with. This is a thing my entire company struggles with. When you give or receive feedback, assume positive intent. Somebody else is taking the time to compliment your work or share suggestions for improvement with you, and that is great. Assume positive intent if you disagree with feedback, even if you think it could have been delivered a little more sensitively. And when you're giving someone constructive feedback, assume that they did not do that thing just to be a jerk. They're probably not a jerk. Most of us in here are probably not a jerk, but sometimes we all do jerk things. So remember that. Remember that person's basic goodness. And when you receive constructive feedback, and it's really hard, remember that that person looked at you and said, boy, I think you're great, and I think you could be better in this way, and so I'm going to tell you this thing, even though it's hard to give constructive feedback, because I want you to grow. Another thing that project manager used to say was, feedback is a gift. And I would roll my eyes all the way around. But she was right. Feedback is a gift. And when you thank someone for the feedback, you are thanking them for that positive intent. One exercise I like to do with this is to say, okay, if my favorite teammate had done this exact same thing, would I respond this same way? If I act like a jerk in a meeting, my favorite colleague, Anne, who's also sitting here today, will probably buy me a beer and trust that I will get it together by tomorrow. If I'm a real jerk, she might say, hey, you don't seem like yourself today. What's up? And if I didn't shape up, she would totally call me out and I would deserve it. But she'd give me the benefit of the doubt. So think about somebody in your team that you really adore and care about, and think how you would respond if this behavior were coming from them. Be specific. Whether it's positive feedback or constructive, it should always be specific, and you want to focus on behavior. Something like, you have a bad attitude is really hard to defend because it's subjective. So you want to think about specific behaviors and maybe even specific quotes. I have some examples up here. I also encourage you not to try to deliver too much feedback at once. In fact, when you're going to give somebody feedback, think about the most important thing you want them to take from that session. And when they leave that session, if somebody asks them, hey, what was that meeting about? That's the thing they should say. That's how clear you should be. Assuming that you're not dealing with dangerous or seriously destructive behavior, focus on incremental changes. This is that really hard side for me. When you have to say something to somebody that is going to be very hard for you to say and very hard for them to hear, the tendency is to sandwich. Is to say, you're really, really, really great, and you're so amazing in all these ways, and you did this really, really awful thing, and it was not good, and it cannot happen again, and also, you're so great in all these ways, and what did they hear? I'm gonna do this thing that a wonderful developer friend of mine does, where I say, this is an opinion, so open opinion. I don't believe in a compliment sandwich. I think that it's a cop-out. I think that it is to make the person giving the feedback feel better about giving hard feedback. I don't think it is to the benefit of the person hearing the feedback. Because if it is important, they need to hear it, it cannot be mitigated, and it needs to be allowed to land. It's not gonna feel great, but that's okay. End opinion. Be collaborative. Feedback is not the same thing as dumping your opinion on somebody and walking away. You can increase the likelihood that your feedback is going to be taken well and incorporated by engaging with the other person around the feedback. Make space for your feedback to be effective. Before you deliver unsolicited feedback, especially if it's constructive, ask. Say to somebody, hey, are you open to hearing some feedback around this or that? Maybe give them an option as to when and how you give the feedback. I have this one apprentice that really struggles hearing constructive feedback in the moment. And so if I have some for her, I send it to her in an email the day before a one-on-one, and she gets time to have all of her feelings about it, and then she comes in and we talk the next day. And that works really well for her. Now, if somebody says they want your feedback 3 years from now by carrier pigeon, you may have a different set of concerns. But within reason, give the person options. Confirm understanding. Make sure that when you give feedback, somebody understands what you're saying. Ask them to repeat it back to you. Say, okay, I feel like I just communicated a lot of words. What did you hear from that? And if it's appropriate, follow up. I noticed you really made an effort to speak up in that meeting yesterday, and I really appreciated it. Thank you. Feedback, like most things, is full of anti-patterns. When we give feedback, we are focusing on behavior, not character. We say, you did, not you are. Not, you are such a jerk in meetings. We say, you interrupted your colleague 3 times in that meeting. You never, ever focus on who somebody is. You focus on what they did. In order to create honesty and trust, a person has to feel like they are not going to be punished for giving feedback. If you were a team lead, it's on you to create that space. This is especially important when there's a power differential. I have one mitigating factor for praise in public, critique in private, which I generally do believe in. I do believe that you say good things in front of the whole team and you say not so great things in private. However, if somebody is causing a real and ongoing problem with your team, the team needs to know that that person is receiving feedback and is hearing about it. Because if you're only critiquing in private and the team doesn't know anything's happening, then they're just like, that's passive feedback right there. You are giving passive feedback to the team that that behavior is okay. So, if it's ongoing and it's really a problem, make sure the team knows, hey, this person is receiving feedback about this behavior and we are working on it. I put the opinion right on the slide this time because I'm serious about this. I feel very strongly about this, but it is sometimes an unpopular opinion. I believe that anonymous feedback does the opposite of creating trust and fostering strong team relationships. I believe that it is also sometimes necessary, especially in cases of a power differential. So, in my ideal world, we would not need anonymous feedback, but in the real world, sometimes we do. I do think there is a component of maturity in being responsible for what you say to someone else. I have seen ways that anonymous feedback can build resentment, can hurt trust, and worst of all, can allow people to grind axes. But in some cases, again, often in situations where somebody has more power than somebody else, anonymous feedback is important and should be preserved. It's also great sometimes in cases where there's already trust. I get 360 feedback from people that I work with about every 6 months. And not everybody at my company adores me and thinks that I'm the best thing in the entire world, but they all respect me and I trust all of them. And so even if they have hard things to say, I'm okay with hearing that, and I don't even need to see their name attached to it, and that's okay. This is for you, lead developers. You, as a leader, can create a culture of good feedback. Your team notices what you model, and they do it too, whether it's good or whether it's not. They look at you, and they say, okay, that's how this team is. This team is open. This team is transparent. This team talks about people behind their back. This team comes to somebody when they have a problem. They look at you, and they decide how the team functions. So, if your team is struggling with feedback, you can start with structure. I like to build in lots of regular feedback so we get to practice all of the time. We do mutual one-on-ones, which means that I give people on my team feedback and they give feedback to me on a regular basis. We do structured peer feedback exercises where we practice saying nice things to each other for a while and then we get into the hard stuff. We do team retrospectives where we all get together and talk about how we are doing as a team. And that structure is designed to be scaffolding. It's not permanent necessarily, but it's designed to be there so that eventually we get to the point where good feedback is happening organically in the moment. Last but not least, practice. I think it is important to practice any time you were going to say a thing to a person that is going to be difficult for you. I learned this the hard way when I tried to fire somebody for the first time and somehow didn't. Okay, I'm hoping there was some empathy in that laughter. But the next time I had to fire somebody, I went to a colleague and she said, you fire me 10 times. You practice. And I did. I fired her 10 times, and then I went and fired the actual person I had to fire. So you can practice with a teammate, with a friend, with a mentor. If you really want to get good at this, I have been working with a coach for the last year, and it's the best money I've ever spent in my entire life. You can get a group of colleagues together and say, hey, let's model feedback for our entire organization, or you can bring in a professional trainer. There are so many options. But feedback is a skill, and skills take practice, and they deteriorate without practice. I'm not going to go all the way through this because I am very short on time. But I built this self-assessment, and I do it with myself about every 3 months. And it's got lots of questions for you about how to think about yourself in feedback, because that's where you start. You want your team to get better at this. But for that to happen, it's got to start with you. As leaders, we have a very high responsibility to self-awareness and self-reflection and building these skills, even if they're hard. So this is what I do, the questions that I ask myself. I also have for you some specific challenges that you can take home and do on Monday. Number 1 is easy. Tell somebody something great that they did. That's all. Number 2 is a little harder. Ask somebody on your team, preferably somebody maybe that you supervise, something that you do well and something that you could do better. This is one of my favorite things that we do at our company. We have a channel in Slack called Thanks, and it's just for saying, hey, so-and-so, you did this great thing, and I want the whole org to know about it. And this last one's the hardest, so this is the bonus. Start the conversation with your team. Ask them. You probably have an idea how you think you're doing at giving and receiving feedback. How does your team think you're doing? I have some additional resources. I've read all of these books and really gotten a lot from all of them, so I share them. And finally, that's how you get a hold of me. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear about your experiences. This talk has shifted and changed based on feedback that I have gotten about it and things I have learned from other people, so I hope that it will continue to do so. That's my dog. She's really cute. If you want to see more of her, follow me on Twitter. And I am deeply introverted, really, and I'm sure that's true of some of you too. So I have a ton of business cards with me. If you want to talk about this, but not now or not in person, come to me. I'll give you a card, and you can walk away. Thank you so much. Thank you, the lead developer, for having me. Have a great rest of your conference.